Hey, what's up, everybody? It's me, Danae, and I'm here with a message for you. What's going on, y'all? Happy Monday. It's March, definitely not March, April 27th, 2026, 4:17 on the clock. Hope you had a great weekend and your week is off to a powerful start so far. My son and I went to see the new Michael Jackson movie in IMAX, so that was a powerful way to start my week personally. It was really, really good. It was aspects in the movie. I mean, if you're a Michael fan at all, then you've probably seen some of the other movies and documentaries about him, so you almost feel like there's nothing new to learn. But it puts some other things into perspective. Just little things that you may not have known before, before social media was what it is now. It was all more tabloid fluff than anything. So a lot of you wouldn't know some of the ins and outs of what really happened behind the scenes. Like, one thing, case in point, is that after Michael got injured by the at the Pepsi commercial shoot, when he was burned really badly, he donated all of those funds from the settlement, I guess, with Pepsi to the burn unit that he was on, because he was so touched by the victims there, particularly the kids that didn't necessarily have the resources that he had to just, recover at lightning speed and things like that. So that was just one little thing. Some things you just don't, you, you know, thankfully, people are much kinder to him in his death than they were toward the end of his life and at different moments in his life. But there are certain things like that, that did happen during that time that you would never know about. Well, I didn't know, but that really exemplify the true character of the man. So I appreciate it. And like I said, I went with my son, so he was able to have his own experience of MJ, and he loves MJ for what he knows about him, but he doesn't really know a lot because that wasn't his era. I think MJ was long gone, yeah, before he was even here, but he still has that connection, which again is just a testament to his greatness. So anyway, it was a good movie. I would recommend for the inspiration value of it all, if nothing else. So there's that. All right, so it's 4:20 on the clock now. Here we go. Let's see what we got today. Oh, you know what? Here it is, Ace of Swords. Some type of truth revelation, something coming to light or being revealed. Happy birthday, Taurus. I am so sorry. I'm like beyond late. Yeah, at this point on the 27th, I think I'm at least 6, 7 days late, maybe at least. Happy birthday. I hope you're enjoying your season and I hope you continue to. We love you, Taurus. We really do. The luxury and sensuality that you bring to our existence when we allow ourselves to harness that frequency is top tier, literally King of Pentacles type energy, top tier, lux. What's the word? What's the word that I just heard? Opulence. Yeah, opulence is the word. And who doesn't want more of that in their life if you can help it, in good measure, of course. Ace of Swords, let's see. What's this truth about? Oh, okay. And that was almost what? Was that the World? Oh, the World and the Magician here. Some manifestation. What is that? Tickling me. That has been a result of an ending and a new beginning, like a manifested new beginning that has materialized on account of what could have been years of sowing, plowing, planning, strategizing, hoping, wishing, praying, investing, work in the fields, whatever your field may be. There's some revelation. Let's see, about what though? Maybe about your toil and labor. Maybe you being revealed, or I feel like the revelation is about how your toil and labor precisely has manifested a new beginning. Like to be perfectly clear on the not just clear, but what's the word, affirmed about the choices that you've made, perhaps in a past season and even presently, that have opened up certain doors for you. You know, like having a direct line of connection, and reflection about exactly what you may have done, like where like the dots almost being connected. Like, well, if you hadn't done this, you know how sometimes in hindsight you can reflect back to a time and it's like, damn, if I wouldn't have done this and I wouldn't have went here, if I wouldn't have worked at this place and I wouldn't have had this experience, and then that followed me when I moved to this place, and if I hadn't had that job, which you may or may not have hated, you wouldn't have been open for it. You wouldn't have had gained the opportunity or the experience to then gain something in the future tense of which you absolutely loved. And just kind of seeing how each dot connected to the next. Sometimes it's hard to really appreciate that when you're in motion and when you're in that sowing season, when you're trying to figure out what to put in the ground or what to harvest or what is even worth investing your attention and time into. Is something about being abundantly, that's what I was trying to get to. I was stumbling on abundantly clear about exactly the steps that were taken that were pivotal for your present state of affairs. Hopefully that's a good thing. I think with the World card and the Magician, it reads pretty positive to me for the most part. It's almost like with the World card particularly, it feels like having, and that reminds me of a dream I had last night too. It's like having the answers, the answer key to a test that you already took, or the answers or something like that, being revealed from a test that you took to kind of just show you, all the things that hopefully you did right, and maybe a few of the missteps too, but ultimately what amounted to your final grade. That's what I'm getting. Because something with the World card is definitely has come or is coming to a conclusion, or something's being brought to closure, but it's also a new beginning as well on the other side of that. And I was saying it reminds me of a dream I had. It's kind of hazy now because I didn't write it down, but I kind of had this dream that I was going back to high school, but it wasn't my high school. It was the high school that I went to, which was a private Quaker school. I was going back to the high school in my neighborhood, which was Camden High, which I did not attend, obviously. And it was weird because it was like I was going through the motions of what I had to do to go to my high school that I actually went to in real life. I had to take tests, I had to do interviews and all types of stuff because I was granted a scholarship. And I was doing all that, but I remember at some point, like I was sitting in a class during my visit, and I was seeing the work that they were doing, and it was like so easy. Like I was looking at the work like, this what y'all doing? Like it was so familiar to me, that it felt like, a piece of cake. I felt like I could sit down and take a test in that class if I needed to, which was the opposite experience in some ways at the high school I actually went to, because it was something that it challenged me. The high school I went to it was a big challenge. So I feel like that translates here, you know, as I was saying, like almost being shown the answers, and how that translates connected to my dream. It's like, and although I don't actually have to go back, you know, to high school, it's like everything that you've already learned or faced in that previous season makes the rest of your pathway a bit of a cakewalk. It's like anything that you look at now at this point, it's like, oh, okay, I've seen that before. I know how to do that. I know that math, or it was a science class too at that. Like, I know that science. I know how to do that. I've seen this before. So the things that you have experienced that may have been trial or tribulation even, have prepared you to pretty much, I won't say coast or breeze through the rest of life, but as I say often, it's shaved the learning curve for you, because there's nothing that you couldn't face now that would be so unfamiliar, that you wouldn't at least know how to adjust to the challenge at the very least, if not completely, you know, surmount it with ease in some cases. All right, let's see what else we got here. All right, we got, is Seven of Pentacles Virgo? I think it might be. Maybe I'm wrong. Anyway, we got, yeah, here it is, the King of Wands. It's like you know exactly how to handle yourself, how to manage your energy, how to focus your energy, where to concentrate it, where to conserve it. Your instincts are top tier, like masterful in terms of manifestation here. Some water, please, 1 second. And we know that Michael is a Virgo. That's why I was like, is that Virgo? I don't think that it is. I could be wrong, but I don't know. I feel drawn to that for some reason. But we know Michael was a Virgo, and he was masterful at his craft. And, you know, he found the thing that he loved, and that that gave him life, ultimately, that really enlivened him to carry on, even when his growing up, you know, his upbringing, they definitely showed that in the movie, like the aspects of, you know, his childhood that weren't so pleasant, but ultimately did shape and mold him. You know, that you can't say anything less about the regime of Joe Jackson, that he groomed winners and stars, and they were determined, and they could stand the test of time in a very treacherous industry, because they had seen the worst of it from their beloved father, you know. So when you've gone through something in your interpersonal life, it makes anything you face outside of you pale in comparison, you know. And especially when you found your passion that drives you through any resistance. So the King of Wands is here, and I feel like he's reflecting. He's looking back at maybe even the sacrifices that were made at the Seven of Pentacles, the investments for sure, that made all the difference, you know. And when you look back, of course, everyone may have some unfavorable moment in time, but as I said, like when you survey it all, you know, for what it's worth, and consider what it has has contributed to you in your character, you kind of have to appreciate it all, because God forbid you taking one away. You know, maybe if Joe wasn't so hard on the kids, they might not have had as much of the drive and incentive to persevere. and we might never have a Michael Jackson, so it's something about really surveying your past, and also with the Seven of Pentacles, taking the best of what you can truly treasure, and the best of the times that you reflect upon, and um and harvest from that energy. Like that's the most productive outlook here. Ooh, moon card. Moon and what? Something about fears or mystery. Something unknown. Oh, what's that? Oh, that popped out in the reverse. Interesting. I feel like this is like hidden fears, or it's like something in the subconscious. But I feel like it's a strange take on this, but if this was upright, then I would say that someone, because he'd be looking at that moon, then I would say that someone might still have some PTSD or, some residue from the past that has been unresolved, given us the moon card. But because, I don't know, like, I could be wrong on this, honestly, but I just feel like given the placement of this card with his back toward it, I don't know, it feels like something that has been overcome. And even more so with it being the moon, I feel like it gives way to what I'm saying, like the things that turning your back on those fears, or those that undercurrent of resentment that anyone could have on account of looking back at the least favorable times in your life, and breeding off of that. Something about this feels like this is someone who's learned to kind of put those fears and those imbalances to bed in some way, literally release it and move on. But let me see what's after this 9. Let's see what's looking. Yeah, with the Ace of Wands, that's confirmative for me. And it also speaks to allowing those is it insecurities, maybe maybe those imbalances perhaps of the past to be force fuel, like to be empowering is what I'm really trying to say. Yeah, to be empowering. So beyond the King of Wands, now we're talking about the Ace. So this is on a whole nother level, which makes sense because when you can manage yourself on a carnal level, just playing with the cards you've been dealt, and you can make something magical of that. Remember, we had the World and the Magician card. I feel like the universe steps in and super intensifies your efforts, like when you can show and prove that you can overcome the worst of times and the worst of, or at least for you, like I said, someone's savory hand of cards that you were dealt, and make the most of it, to still even somehow be victorious in your own right. It's on account of, the universe aligning and co-creating with that pure passion, and then taking it to yet another level, to like a superstar status, or greatest of all time status, or the best to ever do it, pioneer status, trailblazer status, to go where no man is ever gone before type status. Usually the stories like that are, I'll say the main characters of stories such as that don't usually have the most fairy tale beginnings. Let's see. And a lot of times, like when you can something about like transmuting your deepest fears and your lowest insecurities, even, much of which you've picked up along the way through your life experience, through your upbringing. When you can transmute that and still make it work for you, man, that is a superstar. Whether they're seen worldwide or just homegrown, like local celebrity, if that, family celebrity or whatever. It's something about that that's really special to say you're able to do in a world such as this. Amidst all the confusion and illusions and distractions, somebody's car alarm just keeps going off. I don't know if it's broken or what. Distractions. Indeed. Sometimes having no particular blueprint for what you're, most times not, for what you're destined to do. And yet you get it done anyway. And do it in such a way, to such an extent of such a level of excellence that you become the benchmark or the blueprint. All right, let me get one more on this row and let's see how I feel. I kind of want to keep this short. Here's the acceleration right here. Yep, right through the fog. Dang, what is this? Because this is really powerful. Yeah, to me is like depicting this accelerated advancement that is because it's funny because my son and I were talking about the movie, and in my own thoughts about MJ, that that you can't help but kind of that trudge up from a movie like that, where sometimes he could be out of sight, out of mind, but then when you watch a flick like that, it just brings so many things into perspective that there never was one like him, and there still hasn't been after all this time. Like, many have done their own thing, they achieved their own greatness and success in their own right, but Michael Jackson is literally just in a league of his own. And I feel like, and my son, God bless his heart, he was like, do you think I could be the king of pop? And I said, baby, I don't know if you could be the king of pop, but I know you can be the king of whatever you put your mind to. If that happens to be pop, then so be it. But whatever you feel a sheer passion for, and you love it so much that you would do it for free, you can absolutely be the king of that thing. And hell, for some, that might just be being the king of being yourself, which is strangely, ironically hard to come by, even still in this world. So, it's something about that, like having the foundational frequency that the universe can work with, world card, magician card, like having the stuff already, embodying the magic within you that just is almost like an attractive force for the divine to want to conduct through, like that special je ne sais quoi that is added on to the, like a dash of that added on to the magic that you already bring to the table, that just takes everything that you've done to just some extreme, astounding level that you, in some cases, like they definitely depicted how Mike used to really pour into himself, like write down affirmations and things like that. If that much is true, that was a depiction that they made in the movie. And there's that, I'm sure he envisioned much of what he ultimately achieved before it happened. But I feel like there's still some aspects of it that even his limited scope of perspective would have never thought could be the case. Like some heights that he reached, and even people and continents and borders that he stretched across. He probably never even imagined that one day he'd have people literally being carried out, passed out from excitement and overstimulation just from being in his presence. Like, who could really imagine that? You know what I mean? Like, who would even visualize that? Who would even desire to have that when all you really want to do is just create, But there's something about the energy that I'm speaking of here, where the type of noble and pure intentions that one starts with to be a creator are just what, the divine is looking for to take it to superstar status. That what you may envisioned, it matters that there is a vision in the first place, and there is an ambition to start with, and there is a pure intention and motivation behind all that that is hoped for. But that's just the groundwork for what the divine then wants to magnify, and what the divine will magnify. And I feel like the Seven of Cups is like being presented with many choices of, particularly of how to invest that supreme energy and creativity that's more or less been gifted to some. Mike, in all of his glory, maybe he still has some struggles. I'm sure that he probably did, but he could have chosen to funnel that energy in some real self-destructive ways, you know, that may have ended fatally way before his time. Yet, what he did, in fact, choose to do was to focus that energy on just creating the most memorable musical experiences that this world has ever seen, like things that have literally inspired generations, and inspired other creators to find their magic and do their thing, and to be the king in their, or queens in their own regard as well. And I'm talking to someone that has that spark. It's not deferred to, as I said to my son, it may not be pop, it could be anything. I don't even have a full scope of what his niche of creativity. I have some ideas, but I could never impose, with my limited perspective, on what the divine has in store for him. I just know that it's unlimited as far as he's concerned, and where he's willing to commit himself and devote himself, the best of himself, to achieving it. It's beyond, it's immeasurable, So it's like a movie like that inspires you because you see that greatness, and hopefully it affirms that you have that spark too, or you have that potential too. And that's ultimately what the divine is looking to market, or to what's the word that I'm looking for, like exalt. Yeah, that's the word, like to exalt, to push out into the forefront, not just for the purposes of ego or bigging somebody up. Certainly not for the purpose of gatekeeping just one and no others. It's really for the purposes of there being accelerated advancement of creativity from one single spark. And then those accelerated advancements would create sparks that would then compound yet again, and 8 times 8 times 8 times 8, infinity. That's truly the nature of the divine, contrary to the time that MJ was coming up, where there were only a select few. And even still, how that illusion is perpetuated, that there's only a select few that can really break through, as the star that they are. It couldn't be farther from the truth. There's more than enough space and opportunity for everybody to shine. There's more than enough stage. There's the marketplace is large enough, infinite, as a matter of fact. And just as Mike was a poor kid from Gary, Indiana, that also sets the bar to know that it doesn't matter where you come from. It doesn't matter what your humble beginnings may be. I'm speaking about this, and it seems quite cliche, but I think it's worth being a reminder of affirmation for us, where we've been conditioned to believe that Mike is an exception, or certainly he's a phenomenon, but he's not the only, and a lot of the breaking through of your own star power comes on account of kind of releasing that conditioning that there's only but so much space and so many slots for true stardom, or phenomenal star power to find its way, to the front. As my phone just went off at 4:49. I just feel like it's a simple message, but it needs to be stressed that whatever you do and whatever capacity of greatness you exude is not only appreciated by the divine, but is about to be superpowered as well. And it may take shape and advance and take form in a way that you never in your wildest dreams could have imagined it could or would. So there's of course the keep up the good work aspect of it all, but there's also, the eyes have not seen nor ears have heard the greatness that is in store for someone that has stayed devoted to being the best of themselves, no matter the circumstances. Yeah, the reward is great for that. Oh, shoot, look at this. The 3 of Pentacles, but look at this. This is so interesting. See how that fell out my hands? But this is what remained. And how it's all in reverse too, because this is the past. So like I said, it doesn't matter what experiences have been encountered, what heartbreaks or traumas have been incurred. The reward for that dedication, devotion, and perseverance of just your purest passion and creativity, with no other expectation other than that, is the 10 of Cups. Total fulfillment. And what's under that? Yeah, and it seems like a long time coming, but again, as we started this, it's also been on account of the investments that you've made all along. And we all know that the one thing about the Ace of Pentacles is when they finally show up with that pentacle, you can count on it. You can bet your life on it. It's something sustainable. and, something that you can really build a foundation upon. It's dependable, it's reliable, it's trustworthy. So it's just, again, doubling down on the fact that all of the hard work and dedication that has been invested up until this point is about to pay off in a major, major way. It'll make up for all of the heartbreaks in the past, that may have been unavoidable, that may have just been, like I said, par for the course along your pathway. The reward will trump that, just in, the advancement of your character alone, on account of it. But even more so than that, I mean, the Knight of Pentacles is holding the Pentacles. So it's saying that, and we had the Magician in the beginning. So it's saying that, there is something quite material, quite measurable that is in store, as a return and reward for your efforts and your dedication. Is not just emotional or spiritual or ideal, ideological, I suppose. It's something that you will actually have to show for, like I was saying before, this affirmation of every step along the journey being affirmed, perhaps by, the final reward and return for your troubles. Like that kind of making up for everything. Every choice, every sacrifice, every time you chose the high road, you chose your pure passion, you had the courage to get up and try again, dust yourself off, or reinvent yourself, or whatever, do something different than anything that you could observe around you, take a chance on yourself, gamble on yourself. All those measures that were taken with no guarantee in the past are about to come to full fruition in a season like this. Speaking of it being, oh wait, did I say Taurus? It is Taurus season, right? Not Gemini. Yeah, it's Taurus season. Speaking of it being Taurus season, this is the time this is like real life rewards. Like I said, opulence, measurable results, real, reality, riches and reality, not just an idea or an ideal. It's when you really are harvesting the fruit of your labor, or figuring out a way to manifest it or attain it in a way that is tangible to the human senses. This is that season, so I wouldn't be surprised if things that have been hoped for, wished for, again, prayed for, planned for, will start to really begin to pop up in true form, in ways particularly that that actually exceed your expectations. And as I place this Three of Swords here, that are going to make any of the trouble or trauma of the past so pale in comparison to what you have in the present, that it'll be almost like, I would say like it didn't happen, but more so in the healthiest frequency, it will be an aspect of gratitude for you to reflect upon, or to forget, either way. But the point of the matter is, you won't look at it like the detriment or the bane of your existence. You'll appreciate it for it being a contribution to it, which is really the greatest energy of creativity that you can possibly persist to be in, because you can do anything fantastic or miraculous or incredible with that intention in mind, where you're not the victim, you're actually victorious despite all the resistances to render you otherwise. You kind of have to give thanks for that opposition, you know, when you consider that without it, you may not be you. You may not be who you are, do what you do, or have what you have. So yeah. All right, so I'm gonna leave it there. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. Until next time, as always, I'll leave you with peace.